Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Mademoiselle Lina, and you can find me online at www.conjureknits.com. Today, we are here to do the weekly forecast for November 15th through the 21st, and we are going to be using the Spirit Keepers Tarot, Revelation Edition by Annabelle Wen. Before we get started, I would like to say thank you for viewing my video. And if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. Hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and click on the little bell so that you'll receive notifications of when I go live or upload new videos. I do try to stay pretty busy here on my channel. I do all 12 zodiac signs for the monthly tarot scopes. On Sundays, we have Conjure Crew with myself, Mambo Tanya, and the Black Bonnet Witch. On Mondays, I upload the weekly forecast. Every day, I do a card of the day reveal. On Wednesdays, we have the virtual book club. We are currently reading the Sword of Truth series by Terry Goodkind. It has been so much fun following Richard and Kaylin on their adventures, so you are definitely going to want to join us for that. I also pop on from time to time and do free readings, so make sure you get my notifications by clicking that little bell. Alright, I feel that I have rambled on long enough. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Card number 1. What spirit will be most present this week? And we have Eight of Swords, the Captor. The setting is Hellenized Alexandria, when Egypt was a Roman province. The Romans pushed for Greek influences to dominate over the Egyptian in a form of cultural imperialism. In the background, to the left, stands the Great Library of Alexandria, which was not so much a single physical location and structure, but rather refers to the collection of scrolls housed in Alexandria that the cosmopolitan city became known for. The adjacent building to the right represents the museum or research institution dedicated to the Muses. In the distance is the Lighthouse of Alexandria, which appeared in the Two of Swords and Seven of Chalices. Two swords, blades downward, appear in the foreground, their formation reminiscent of the astrological glyph for Gemini. In front of the museum, off to the viewer's right side, is a statue of the Roman god Jupiter. The golden eagle in front also signifies Jupiter and Roman rule. The decanate correspondence for the Eight of Swords is Jupiter in Gemini, where Jupiter is in detriment. A woman's hands are tied by the threads of fate, ropes extending out in 4 directions. Not only are there swords surrounding her, 2 shadowy clouds grip at her skirts. A total lunar eclipse, reflecting blood red, hangs low in the skies, bearing witness to what is about to happen. The woman is Hypatia of Alexandria, upper-class daughter to the Greek scholar and mathematician, Theon of Alexandria, renowned for his commentaries on Euclid and Ptolemy. Theon of Alexandria also achieved significant advancements in his work on predicting eclipses. He personally oversaw his daughter's well-rounded and highly disciplined education. At an impressive young age, she surpassed her father's knowledge. Hypatia was born sometime between 350 and 375 AD. She was a Neoplatonic philosopher who espoused that intellect was the highest order of human reality and that our intelligence is what bears responsibility for the unfolding of events and the constructions of our material existence. Our soul is the mediator between our intellect and the material, corporeal world. Living a purified, exalted spiritual life is how intellect can dominate over base materialism. Hypatia was not only a university teacher, but she also gave free lectures to the public. She was seen in her time as a spiritual teacher and philosopher, in addition to being a mathematician, astronomer, astrologer, and scientist. Many of her students rose to prominent political seats, which resulted in her having friends in high places who would go out of their way to seek her counsel on stately matters. Her opponents grew jealous of the political power and social influence she wielded. In the early 400s, Alexandria was besieged with political turmoil. There was a fight among bishops for control over the city. Hypatia's extraordinary political influence was seen as a threat. Those in power spread word that Hypatia was a witch casting magical spells over the city's leadership, and her extraordinary gifts of intellect came from the devil. In 415 AD, Christian officials and Alexandrian laymen loyal to Cyril, the bishop then in power, attacked Hypatia, dragged her to what had been a pagan temple dedicated to Julius Caesar, which by Hypatia's time had been converted into a Christian church, stripped her naked, and stabbed her multiple times with shards of broken earthenware tiles. They blinded her, driving the shards into her eyes, and dragged her dead, naked corpse, or what remained of it, through the city streets before lighting her body on fire. In her posterity, the philosopher Hypatia of Alexandria became a symbol of human ideas, intellectualism, culture, and the humanities. Her death is a representation of the unprincipled, ambition-driven mob seeking to suppress learning and science. Feminists portray Hypatia's death as a symbol of misogyny. Pagans see it as a demonstration of the Christian institution exterminating paganism. Historians and scholars now correct these misconceptions, pointing out that more men admired and revered her than those who orchestrated her downfall, and among her students, she was as beloved by Christians as she was by her pagan pupils. Card number 2. What is in my highest interest to make this week's priority? And we have Two of Swords, the Blind Seer. A blindfolded seer sits on a stone bench, wielding two crossed swords over her heart. The twin swords are the ego and the self. Rubido, the actualization or consummation stage in the alchemical process of realizing the great work, is associated with the archetypal nature of merging the ego with the self. Her crossed wrists form a double vajra. One sword points in the direction of Horus or Heru, the falcon-headed sky god. The ancient Egyptians believed in a bifurcated representation of the god Horus. He was Horus the Elder, a primordial god, and he was also Horus the Younger, the sky god and son of Isis. The image of the full moon in the eye of Providence denotes the polarity of the sun, and therefore its direct presence. A full moon is when the sun and moon are at direct opposites facing each other, which is why the full face of the moon is illuminated by the light of the sun. As a sky god, Horus sees all, and thus bears witness to every injustice that is committed. Call upon Horus to avenge wrongs that have been done to you. He is the Redeemer, with the power to bring earthly salvation to humans, and so in times of dire need, petition Horus to save you from jeopardy. The hieroglyphs on the base of the falcon statue read as follows: Nehe, meaning to invoke or entreat; Aku, meaning the light, radiance, luminescence, the god of light and splendor; Heru Abu, meaning Horus, great one of the hearts; Herumurti, meaning Horus of the two eyes, the sun and moon. The pillars and framing of this image serve to signify an open portal or gateway between worlds. The second sword points in the direction of the Lighthouse of Alexandria, built around 250 BC on the island of Pharos. The Lighthouse of Alexandria was dedicated to the savior gods, featuring reliefs and statues of the god Horus. Other records note that the lighthouse later featured statues of Triton, Poseidon, and Zeus. Standing as one of the tallest man-made structures of the ancient world, the lighthouse was constructed of pink granite, sandstone, and limestone. On either side are twin pillars reminiscent of the priestess and the chancellor's realms. The blind seer is also a threshold guardian for the priestess and the chancellor. She can also appear to prophesy an apocalyptic vision, the numerological link between key 20, apocalypse, and the twos. The pillars feature stylized, ornate roses, which was also featured on the hilt of the Ace of Swords. This is to represent the expression sub rosa, to convey that all that transpires here is to be kept under a cone of silence. The rose would be hung on the entranceway of rooms where an important council was being held, to convey that what would transpire during that meeting must be kept secret, and the decisions to be made therein would be kept in strict confidence. The blind seer's dress pattern is a homage to the Thoth Two of Swords. Card number 3. What do I need to be mindful of and prepare for this week? And we have Archangel of Mysteries. Illuminate the shadow. The angelic title for the King of Orbs is the Archangel of Mysteries. She is also known by her title Archangel of Revelations. Splayed across the night skies is the Seven Sisters of Pleiades under the constellation Taurus. To the Andean peoples, Pleiades is an omen of prosperity and abundance, as the stars are most visible in the southern hemisphere during harvest season. In the Philippines, there is a similar association for the Pleiades, believed to represent a flock of birds that ushered in a new planting season. North African nomadic peoples called these stars the daughters of the night. Greeks mythologized the Seven Sisters as the daughters of Atlas, Maia, who gave birth to Hermes, Electra, Tegid, Alcyone, Selene, Sterope, and Merope. In Taoist mythology, the constellation is the white tiger spirit associated with the Empress Mother of the West, Zai Wangmu. The setting is 17th century Tegucigalpa-occupied Patagonia, the southern tip of South America, parts of Chile, and Argentina. The Archangel of Mysteries brings you gifts of corn and gold, the gold in the form of a shaman's mask, accented with precious green jade and Inca rose or rhodochrosite. Jade improves your luck, health, and well-being. Rhodochrosite gives you prophetic dreams. The Archangel of Mysteries illuminates the darkness and assists those who traverse the realms of shadow and helps us to uncover mysteries. This is the Archangel who protects the keeper against all forms of darkness, including times of uncertainty, sorrow, grief, and insecurity. The ears of corn also symbolize seeds of spiritual enlightenment. It is also an omen of provision, and one who is a provider that nourishes and sustains the livelihoods of others. The Archangel of Mysteries message to you: I am the loving light you feel upon your shoulders. When you bask in the silence to listen, you will hear me whispering words of guidance. In darkness, in grief, in times of uncertainty, I am the steady voice of reason that will lead you back into the light of knowledge and wisdom. By combining the cards from this week's forecast, I was able to come up with the I Ching of Hexagram 19. Lin, spring is coming. Ascension to greatness, approaching manifestation. The first light after the winter solstice. The divine light expands your power. However, one position above looks down at those below. The one position above looks down at the work below. All the work you have put in propels you toward your peak. You are about to manifest your own highest potential and destiny. After much toil, labor, and obstacles, you are now positioned to enjoy the first light of great success. However, keep in mind that once you reach your pinnacle, do not look down on those below you. Do not grow arrogant or prejudiced. Do not be condescending toward the work others do that you perceive to be lesser than the work you do. Prosperity and gains to come. Great benefits from completing the endeavor at hand. At the arrival of the 8th moon, beware of another's ominous intentions. You will enjoy an enduring period of success, but around the 8th month mark, the envy of others may trigger them to take malicious action against you, so be wary and careful. Earth above lake, fertile and stable grounds for creation. Ascension to greatness, approaching manifestation. The great sage, in your wisdom, will look out for and protect those in your kingdom who are less fortunate. First line. Collective ascension to greatness. You meet with prosperity when you persevere on the virtuous and noble path. The good-hearted prevail. Join those with the same heart and who believe in the same mission as you. While your heart is in the right place, continue to be prudent. Do not act rashly, even in good intent. In the ebb and flow of lux, you are on the ascent. You will succeed in your endeavor, but do not lose your humility. When the flow of luck descends, as it does naturally in every instance of life, you will sustain less harm when you are humble. Only when you have not, while you were positioned high, repudiated those who were lesser than you, will you find grace. Second line, collective ascension to greatness. Prosperity begets greater prosperity, gains beget greater gains. You are in control of the momentum of your present matter. Seek out alliances. In a joint collaborative effort with those who share your virtue and mission, you can use momentum to your advantage and success expands into even greater success. Third line, an ascension to greatness like drinking nectar. However, no furtherance of prosperity or gains. You are aware of the circumstances and worry for its future. You will not be blamed for the outcome. Achievement of material success positions you comfortably in life, and life is sweet. However, you are not progressing or advancing beyond your current point. You know this already, and it concerns you. You contemplate how you might be able to achieve more. Do not worry, you will not be blamed for what happens. Fourth line, arriving at a point of greatness, favorable and without blame. Although a sparse line, the indication here is you have already achieved success and have now attained a position of power and influence over others. Your outlook is one that is kind and open toward all, irrespective of class or rank, and you draw people of all backgrounds into your inner circle. Such an approach is favorable and will work to your benefit. Even when expectations are not met or mistakes made, you will go without blame because you possess the right attitude and have supportive interpersonal relations. Fifth line, a harmonious and tranquil point of greatness, holistic greatness. The sage judgment is correct and leads to fortune and prosperity. You are in a position of leadership and responsibility. Your decision will result in a positive outcome. You not only possess greatness, but you possess wisdom. Employ your skills and intellect along with your intuition and wisdom, and you cannot go astray. You will succeed because you take a holistic approach to the endeavor. Sixth line, greatness out of benevolence yields fortuity, no blame. Although not literally in the text, there is a general consensus among scholars that the sixth line here refers to one who has achieved greatness in the world already, and who has since retired or retreated from the world for solitude and inner contemplation. Such a person is a sage or master who now returns to the world, pulls out of retirement or leaves solitude behind to be of use to society again, to come back and teach or help the world. Even when expectations are not met or mistakes made, you will go without blame because you sacrifice time you could have enjoyed for yourself to put yourself back in service of a greater good. All right, my lovelies, let's take a look at the bigger picture here. Card number 1. What spirit will be most present this week? And we have the Captor. The title for the spirit of this card was intentional. This is the captor, not the captive. In contemporary times, it has become far too popular for every one of us to paint ourselves as the victim and not as the perpetrator. This Eight of Swords asks us to confront our role as the captor and not as a captive. Hypatia is looking straight at you, the onlooker, because you are part of this landscape. Your widest card is called the captor and not the captive. What have we been doing to falsely imprison logic, reason, free speech, higher ideals, morality, ethics, and the flourishing of the humanities? We are not Hypatia. We are the people who played our own roles in causing the capture of Hypatia. Here, she is a metaphor. And yet, this imagination of her shows a point in time when there is still a window of opportunity to change our minds, to interfere. This card in Crowley's Thoth is the Lord of Interference, and to save her. We can still free her from her bindings. It is not too late. In her time, Hypatia was also seen as a spiritual teacher, lecturing to the public on Neoplatonism. This illustration is an allegory for ambition's suppressing spirituality, i.e., the relation between the idol of Jupiter and the bound Hypatia. Also note the total lunar eclipse depicted here, i.e., it's a full moon. During a full moon, the Earth is sandwiched in between the Sun and Moon, signifying the father and the mother, masculine and feminine, reason and intuition, deduction and induction. When the Eight of Swords appears in a reading, there has been undue interference in the seeker's path. Think on the story of Hypatia, what she represents as a gifted philosopher, spiritualist, and teacher, how she got into her carriage that fateful day, and the people descended on her, ultimately causing her gruesome end. Yet here, we have the opportunity to overthrow the cycle of history, to change our ways so that we are not part of the mob that murders Hypatia. At present, there may be an imbalance between your intellect and your soul, i.e., ambitions versus your spiritual path, that which will better lead you to your salvation. Another way of interpreting this card when it shows up is as logic suppressing emotion. This is reason, ideologies, and verbalized thought holding intuition captive, not allowing intuition to keep reason and ideologies in check. Crowley's Book of Thoth gave a reference to mice and men for the Eight of Swords. Looking to Steinbeck's book titled with the same name, themes here are the evils of oppression, aggressions of those in a superior position to hurt those who are helpless and meek, and themes of fate, isolation, and also the prophecies delivered through dreams. In matters of the heart, the Eight of Swords denotes entrapment and not having done enough to achieve your aspiration. This is falling short of what it would have taken to attain success. In matters of work, this will be a difficult card to acknowledge because there is no clear-cut, easy solution to the problem. But take heart, if you would believe Waite's interpretation of this card, the Eight of Swords predicts that this condition is temporary. In general, the Eight of Swords prognosticates crisis, but the setbacks are transitory. Waite's interpretation continues into darker terrain, however. Ill-dignified, it suggests unforeseen challenges, disaster, predetermined liability, and bad actors attempting to cause you harm, in particular through words, i.e., slander, defamation, or malicious statements being made. Contemporary interpretations for the Eight of Swords typically explain the swords surrounding a bound figure as internal fears that are disempowering the current. While Benny Bell still wanted the SKT Eight of Swords to convey that, she also wanted to validate those fears. There's usually a very good reason for why that fear is there. Thus, even if you read this card as yourself being Hypatia, and therefore the captive under the control of the spirit of the captor, this card validates the current's fears. Your sense of disempowerment is not a figment of the imagination. It is very real. Something systemic, something bigger than ourselves, or even something produced by a long chain of karmic events, is why we are now in the throes of an Eight of Swords moment. There are very concrete, legitimate reasons why you feel trapped. There is no easy out here. It's not all in your head. You don't just manifest an escape route with positive thinking. You do not have a dysmorphic view of your circumstances. You're clear-headed and intelligent. You know exactly what's going on, and the Eight of Swords appearing to you is confirmation that you have a legitimate basis for your fears. And yet I hope this card is not pure doom and gloom. Just as we read the RWS Eight of Swords, there is a way out. You are the reimagined Hypatia, and you can still cut loose the threads of fate. It is not too late to get yourself out of your hostile situation. It is important to work with the Eight of Swords as an allegory. It's so easy to identify ourselves as Hypatia, adopting a victim mentality. The world is unjustifiably out to get us because they envy how extraordinary we are. We don't ever imagine ourselves as Cyril, the misguided bishop who envied Hypatia's political prestige and social influence, and therefore accused her of witchcraft and satanic practices. We, the onlooker, are the ones holding Hypatia and everything she represents captive. We are not the victim. We are the perpetrator. Hypatia, as depicted here, is demanding that you look her in her eyes as you suppress your own spiritual ideals in preference for pursuing your ambitions. Card number 2. What is in my highest interest to make this week's priority? And we have the blind seer. In Egyptian mythos, eyes weren't just for seeing, but were sources of action and causation. Thus, one message coming through is to take pause. You need to think this one through. Don't act or make a decision in haste. Two competing or oppositional ideas are in equipoise. One balances out the other. Waite notes that one divinatory meaning of this card is concord in a state of arms. Among the keys from the suit of swords, which are classically attributed to suffering, the Two of Swords may be the most positive, though favorable readings of this card must be considered in a qualified manner. Wait, nevertheless, there is a sentiment of tenderness present in your situation. There's courage and supportive friendships. The blind seer helps us navigate the stalemate between the ego and the self. The twin swords or twin paths form the cross that you bear. You have yet to attain the realization you need to make an intelligent, reasoned decision. So take the time to look inward. Arrive at an inner peace and restore a sense of calm before you proceed any further. However, where I described the twin swords in the blind seer as the ego and the self, Crowley describes them as silence and chastity, making reference to Harpocrates, the Greek god of silence, derived from the Egyptian icon of Horus as a child. The esoteric attribution for the Two of Swords is peace, with the implication that it is one born from tension and halted conflict. The context of this peace is mutually assured destruction, and so you make peace with your opposition because that's the only way to ensure your own security. The thesis of the Two of Swords, when faced with an impossible choice between two ways, the best course to take is always the third. The pictorial reference to Sub Rosa here would also be construed as an omen to keep your decision-making to yourself. Don't disclose what's on your mind to others just yet, keep it secret, or you might jeopardize the balance. Card number 3. What do I need to be mindful of and prepare for this week? And we have the Archangel of Mysteries. The Archangel of Mysteries is the divine embodiment of security, stability, and preservation. This is the power of protection, of safeguarding against harm, against damage or even deterioration. This is the most exalted force of stabilization. The Archangel of Mysteries is also an angel of redemption. This is the higher divine genius within you, activated, able to transform the esoteric or specialized knowledge you've attained into productivity and personal prosperity. Mathematical gifts are also conveyed by this key. Here are the powers of deductive and inductive reasoning. When this card appears in divination, you are a master of your resources, but also you've reached a point in your life path where now is the time to ask questions of meaning. How exactly do you want to allocate your assets and resources, and how can it bring you spiritual fulfillment? In mundane readings, coming to you as an embodiment of the King of Orbs, Pentacles, and Discs, aligned with the RWS, a pensive and serious personality is present, someone who will take a great deal of time and be methodical in decision-making. This is a powerful force of socioeconomic aptitude and one potentially skilled in mathematics. Aligned with the Thoth Knight of Discs, this is a personality resembling that of a mountain and of the phenomena gravitation. Here is one who produces. This is a breadwinner and a provider, hence the symbolism of the corn. Wherever the King of Orbs walks, the lands beneath this archangel's feet will be fertile. The Archangel of Mysteries, irrespective of your gender identification, is a feminized projection of absorbing in that which is obscured or unenlightened and transmuting it into that which is clarified and enlightened. This is about receiving rather than giving. As a receptive passive force of celestial nature, this angel of revelations is the great preserver, nourishing that which already exists, rather than asserting or initiating something new. This is about deepening, not expanding. There is also a preemptive divinatory implication when the Archangel of Mysteries shows up. Spirit detects that difficult times or forces of challenge are up ahead. And so this archangel will appear preemptively to light the path for you and navigate you away from danger. Card number 4. For the I Ching this week, we have Lin, an ascent to greatness, prosperity and gains to come, great benefits from completing the endeavor at hand. The divine light expands your power. After overcoming many obstacles, you're now ready to enjoy the dawn of success. As you reach your pinnacle, do not look down on those below you and do not be arrogant. Use your abundance to protect your kingdom and those who are less fortunate. At the arrival of the 8th moon, beware of another's ominous intentions. You will enjoy an enduring period of success, but around the 8th month mark, the envy of others may trigger them to take malicious action against you, so be wary and careful. Okay, so we have a couple of repeats from last week. It is time to make the decision to stop making excuses and carry on forward. Great success is waiting for you. Grab the bull by the horns and take charge. And don't forget the people who were by your side on your way to the top. This is going to be such an exciting week for you. A week of growth and adventure, amazement and wonder. Sure, we do have some work to do, but it is so worth it. I hope that this reading has helped you and will help lead you and guide you throughout the week. If you do feel that it has helped you and that it will help someone else, please feel free to share this video. Sharing is caring. And if you would like a more in-depth and personal reading, you can go to my website at www.conjureknits.com and click on the link at the top of the page that says Book a Reading. I hope you all have a very beautiful and amazing week. Love you bunches. Shalom.